Hi guys, welcome to another iMedia video where today we're looking at categories of audience segmentation. And if we look at the main iMedia knowledge organiser, we're in topic area 2 and we're specifically looking at 2.3 audience demographics and segmentation. And categories of audience segmentation, words 69 to 75, age, gender, occupation, income, education, location, interests and lifestyle. So let's get cracking and delve into this topic. So in this section, we're throwing in a few big words. Demographics. What on earth is demographics? Well, that just means statistics and segmentations of the population. And when we get onto the word segmentation, if you think of an orange, when you break an orange up into pieces, you break it up into segments. So they're just pieces of the orange. And segmentations, in terms of the audience, is breaking up the audience into sections or smaller groups. And this can be done for a variety of ways. For example, football fans could be men, they could be women. You could have football fans who live in Manchester, live in London, live in Newcastle, so on and so on. So there's not just one way of breaking down an audience into a segment. There's lots of different ways. And you can sometimes use one way, 2, 3 ways together. It doesn't really matter. And a tip for the exam and the coursework is always use the categories on the specification that I'm going to go through now. Age. So the example there is 18 plus, but if you think about age, you could break it up into above 18, below 18, just 18-year-olds, children. But you can't just say children, you'd have to define a specific age, i.e. 1 year to 3 years old, or 4-year-olds to 7-year-olds, things like that. And age is important because when we think about young children, if you designed a media product, for example, a website for young children, you'd have lots of images, big text and simple words because children might not understand more sophisticated or adult words. Good example is the CBeebies website. Or you might have a car advert. The car advert will be aimed at first-time drivers. The majority of first-time drivers might be about 18 to 21 because the legal age to start driving lessons is 17 years old. We have gender. This is traditionally male and female, but you must also be inclusive of other gender identifications as well. So an example is an advert for a new Premier League football kit. And as the clubs now have male and female teams, the advert will probably be inclusive of all genders unless you were specifically aiming at the men's team or the women's team. But that doesn't mean that women might not want to buy men's kits and men might not want to buy women's kits and so on and so on. So you've got to think about being gender inclusive in your media products. Occupation. An occupation is a job or a profession. So this could be linked to income, very closely linked to income, because your job obviously brings in a wage, which is an income. And certain occupations have specialist products targeted at them. So a professional football player may need specialist football boots. A business person who travels a lot may need a specific kind of car or a van for a tradesman. So there's lots and lots of considerations when it comes to occupation. Income, as I've just mentioned, that will be linked to your job, but just because you have a well-paid job or a lesser paid job, it doesn't mean you don't have an income. So for example, some people might have a job on minimum wage, but they might rent out houses or have stocks and shares, so they might have more disposable income. Somebody might earn a lot of money, but have lots of children who cost a lot of money, so they might have less disposable money to buy things. So the luxury supermarkets tend to have strong colours and images with a serif text because they are promoting more of a luxury brand. So when we're looking at supermarkets, who's likely to buy luxury products, who's likely to buy budget products? All considerations of income. Education might be used to define the audience sector. An example is a graduate scheme. So there's lots of student discounts. So students are people who are studying at college or university. Companies know that students don't have a job, so they'd be enticed by discounts or cheaper products. And students have more time on their hands to do leisurely activities. So education is a good category of segmentation to use. Location, the geography, location. So the geographical location is important because you need to consider who the target audience is, who the local audience is, Or is it a global audience? Are you targeting all people around the world? A global campaign would probably be more time consuming and costly, and to reach out to a global audience, you might have to use media products such as social media or websites. A local band playing in a local pub will probably not attract a global audience. So you might target that local band by using a media product such as a printed poster or an advert in a local print published newspaper. A famous global pop star performing at Wembley Stadium in London is far more likely to attract an audience from further afield. Interests are a good way of targeting specific audience segments. A gym will be likely to focus on people who are interested in healthy lifestyles. Other companies may use the audience who go to the gym to target them with related products, such as healthy food, gym clothing, and protein products. Things like protein bars are really popular now, and you often see these sold at the receptions within gyms and leisure clubs. Lifestyle is very similar to interest, but it specifically refers to the way people live out their life or interests. So a person with interest in extreme sports, such as bungee jumping or skydiving, would have an adventurous lifestyle. An adventurous lifestyle could indicate interests and activities in exotic travel or a tendency to try out new foods. That concludes our research on audience segmentation. However, I think it's worth pointing out that the kind of questions you might get based on this, your 1 markers or your 2 markers could be give an audience segmentation except for gender, or give 2 audience segmentations except for gender, and you might say income or lifestyle. 1 mark, 2 marks. Other questions for 2 marks, 3 marks might be something along the lines of the audience are children. How might this affect the design of the media product? So, as we've mentioned, you might say things along the lines of a media product for children might have bright colours, lots of pictures, and simple text, because children are still developing their reading and are more visual because of that. And again, for an adult audience, it might be more sophisticated text. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As per always, ask your teacher for retrieval questions to test your knowledge. If you're an online user, you can try the practice quiz by clicking on the link in the video description. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.